My stepmother burned my late mom's belongings while I was in the hospital, claiming my dad would approve because she was taking care of us. I am a 23-year-old woman who has spent many years in and out of the hospital due to a chronic condition that I have had since I was a young child. My 48-year-old father has always been incredibly encouraging and makes an effort to be present for me for any operations or treatments I need. I recently underwent major surgery, and I had a really difficult recovery. I spent roughly 2 weeks in the hospital, and it was incredibly difficult. Dad spent the majority of that time with me, but he had to go on a work trip a few days prior to my release. He travels all over the country for his profession as a business consultant, and sometimes he just can't escape it. I really understood his sincere apologies for not being there to pick me up from the hospital. In addition, my 45-year-old stepmother was expected to take care of things while he was away. To give you some context, I have never really gotten along with my stepmother. We've had a strained relationship since she married my dad when I was 16. I know she doesn't truly like me, but I still try to be polite. She has always made me feel as though I was interfering with her relationship with my dad by saying and doing things. She also believes that I resemble my mother, who died when I was 10, too much. By the way, my stepmother detests the fact that I resemble my mother since she believes it serves as a reminder to my dad of his former partner. Yes, I am aware that she sounds crazy, but ultimately, I accepted my dad's love for her, which is why I put up with a lot of her actions. I eventually returned home after being released from the hospital. Although I was tired, I was glad to be out of the hospital. When I initially entered my room, everything appeared to be as usual. I ended up napping after lying on my bed to unwind. I realized something was wrong when I decided to tidy up my room a little after waking up. I quickly discovered that a lot of things were missing, a really significant amount. I suppose I was too tired to notice how empty my room appeared. I began to panic. Perhaps there had been a break-in, I reasoned. I began scurrying about the room, looking for anything that might still be there. I was still so weak after my operation that I could hardly stand, but I was desperate. Almost immediately, it became evident that everything missing was my mother's property. Among other nostalgic items, I had a number of letters Mom had written to me as a child, some framed pictures, and this old jewelry box of hers. Normally, they would remain on my nightstand or dresser, but on that particular day, they were all gone. Everything was gone when I looked in the storage room where we kept some of my mom's old belongings, including her clothing and a few antiques from her family. It was unbelievable to me. I went straight to my stepmother. I tried my best to remain composed around her. I inquired as to whether she had taken anything out of my room. She gave me this self-satisfied smile. She then nonchalantly informed me that I no longer had to worry about any of those things since she had taken care of some of my things. I had a sick feeling in my stomach. Although I was aware that my stepmother had always harbored animosity toward my mother, I repeatedly prayed that the only thing she had done was to store my mother's belongings in a storage facility farther away from our home. My stepmother kept smiling smugly when I asked her what she had done with my belongings. I finally lost it and began yelling at her to tell me what she had done. She then chuckled and informed me that she had set fire to everything that belonged to my mother. I was so stunned by that I quickly stopped talking. I was unable to even comprehend it. She simply stated that this was the best way for her and my dad to go on with their lives. When I eventually got around to asking her why she would do something like that, she apparently claimed that my dad didn't require reminders of his former existence. I attempted to fight with her, telling her that my dad would not approve of her actions and that she had made the worst mistake of her life. She merely laughed at me and claimed to know him better than I did, adding that he would be pleased that she had destroyed my mother's belongings in order to maintain their relationship. What I was hearing was unbelievable. I could hardly talk because I was so unhappy and furious. I tried not to cry while I was trembling, but the tears just poured. I felt as though I was experiencing my mother's loss once more. It was unbelievable to me that someone could be so vicious. I simply couldn't stop thinking about what I had lost. I lost everything I had of my mother. That's when I got too weak. I was overburdened. I walked to my room, leaving my stepmother standing there. After crying for a long time, I made the decision to call my father. He was in the middle of a meeting, which was unfortunate for me. He sounded quite busy and preoccupied when he eventually responded. I made an effort to explain the situation to him, but I could tell he wasn't really listening. He hung up quickly after saying something about handling it when he came home. I was so powerless. The days that followed were the longest of my entire existence. My stepmother, who pretended that she had done nothing wrong, left me feeling alone, furious, and devastated in that house. She was careful to emphasize that she had done my dad a great favor. She insisted that my attachment to my mother's possessions was immature and that it was time for me to mature. Every chance she got, she made fun of me. I'm not sure how I survived those times, but I was able to wait for my dad to return. I was waiting for my dad when he returned from his trip. I repeated everything to him, and this time he paid attention. He didn't trust me at first. He believed that my stepmother was just playing a cruel practical joke or that there was some sort of miscommunication. However, when I showed him my room and our storage area, he turned pale upon seeing that everything was empty. The love of his life was my mother, and at the age of 10, they had first met. My mom and dad's childhood possessions were among the many items my stepmother set on fire. Those things played a significant role in my dad's recollections with my mom. Even though he had moved on and married my stepmother, he valued them greatly. Therefore, it was devastating to see them all gone. My stepmother tried to act like it wasn't a huge thing when he confronted her. She even claimed that I had brainwashed my dad into believing it was significant when she noticed how upset he was becoming, even though she was only assisting him in moving on. My father went crazy. He's never been so furious in my life. One thing about my dad that you should know is that he's a fairly laid-back guy. You have to do a lot to make him mad. My stepmother was obviously afraid and did not anticipate that her behavior would make him angry. My father immediately informed her that he desired a divorce. He instructed her to get her belongings and depart. My dad told my stepmother that the house was his long before he ever met her, despite her attempts to claim that it was also hers and that he couldn't evict her. He also threatened to call his lawyer to have her removed from the property if she didn't leave within the next 24 hours. My dad and I mourned the loss of my mom's possessions together, and my stepmother stormed out of the house in a fit of rage. My father chose to ruin my stepmother's life. My dad sued her for emotional anguish and property destruction after speaking with his attorney. Her behavior upset him, and he wanted her to pay the price. Naturally, my stepmother lost her mind. She was shocked to learn that my father was supporting me. She persisted in pointing the finger at me, saying that I had influenced him and made him turn against her. My dad, though, wasn't having any of it. The fact that she had ruined the final mementos of his first marriage and the woman he really loved infuriated him. He was no longer even able to look at her. The litigation is currently underway, and the divorce is ongoing. Although my stepmother is battling it, she has little chance of success. She has been attempting to play the victim and has claimed that my attachment to the past destroyed everything. Some of my stepmother's family members have contacted me and accused me of being immature for meddling in their affairs. I am aware that I did nothing improper. My stepmother would have suffered the same repercussions if my dad had eventually learned about my mom's missing possessions. Even still, her family members blame me for her predicament and are constantly texting me about how hard a time she's been having. My mind is messed up by the grief I'm experiencing, even though I know I'm not to blame. All I need is someone who is not involved in this mess to assure me that I did nothing wrong. Is it rude of me to inform my father that my stepmother destroyed everything belonging to my deceased mother? First update. Hi everyone. Because of the tremendous escalation, I wanted to provide you with an update. I was still in disbelief over what my stepmother had done when I initially commented, but I can assure you that this case is turning into a nightmare for her, and I honestly don't feel sorry for her. It's getting worse for her than she could have ever imagined, and my dad isn't holding back. He's determined to make her pay. As it turns out, my stepmother had no idea what she was getting herself into, and the legal procedure has been proceeding swiftly. She burnt some quite precious items in addition to sentimental mementos. Antique keepsakes inherited from my mother's side of the family made up the majority of the objects she destroyed. They belonged to a collection that had been passed down through the years. A few items, such as a set of antique jewelry and an old watch, were valued at thousands of dollars. Even if that is bad for her, it gets worse because those antiques were covered by insurance. My mom's family had insurance policies linked to the heirloom's worth since they took such good care of them. My dad had even more clout in the litigation after he understood this. In addition to mental distress allegations, my stepmother is also dealing with a significant property destruction case that includes concrete proof of monetary loss. She must reimburse the full value of these products because they were destroyed, and let's just say she lacks the funds to do so. She is currently being pursued by the insurance company as well. They have begun their own investigation since my dad made a claim, and they are fully supporting him. My stepmother is unable to escape this one. She was completely mistaken if she believed she could simply destroy these items and leave. The lawyers for my dad have been keeping a close eye on everything and have ensured that she is in a tight spot. It's really cruel to see, but she deserves all of it for everything she's done. Thank God my dad was astute enough to have her sign a prenuptial agreement before they were married. The divorce is proceeding swiftly as well, since that means she won't be taking much with her. That has been a tremendous assistance. Initially, she attempted to challenge it, but her attorney just informed her that she had no case since the prenuptial agreement is unchangeable. My dad will keep all of his possessions from before and after they were married. That means my stepmother won't have access to any of my dad's money, a fancy house, or a fancy automobile. I am fully aware of her panic because she has been blowing up my phone every day. She manages to text me again after I block her. She screams about how I destroyed her life in these lengthy messages that she sends me. Her constant attempts to portray herself as the victim are almost comical. She says she's paying the price for something that wasn't her fault since I persuaded my dad into divorcing her. She keeps screaming that everything is breaking apart because I couldn't let it go and that she was only attempting to assist by burning my mom's belongings. She has also been telling me about how her life is falling apart, and to be honest, I don't even care or have any sympathy for her. People in her social circle are apparently beginning to turn away from her. It has been devastating to lose her reputation because she has always placed a great deal of importance on appearances. She used to have elegant brunches and dinner parties, but now her so-called friends have entirely abandoned her. I've heard that many people are supporting my dad because they understand how much my mom's possessions matter to him. Her sob story about doing it for the family isn't convincing. She is already feeling the effects of the financial impact. She is losing control of the lifestyle she was so proud of as the lawsuit continues, and the prenup prevents her from receiving any of my dad's assets. My dad's business had even rented her a beautiful car, which he canceled as soon as the divorce papers were filed. She has been complaining to me that she looks like a pathetic loser because she must utilize public transportation everywhere and that I am solely to blame for her predicament. She's desperate, based on what she's been telling me, since she can't stop messaging. She is looking for a new location to live, but she lacks the funds for a lifestyle that is comparable to what she is accustomed to. She could certainly live with something less expensive, but she refuses to live below what she deserves. She even attempted to use guilt tripping to persuade my dad to let her stay in our home until she recovered, but he refused. She is upset about everything, including the house, the litigation, and the prenuptial agreement. I always get a text saying that I'm to blame whenever things go wrong for her. She is truly going crazy. According to a mutual acquaintance, she has been pleading for favors and attempting to win people over to her cause, but nobody is retaliating. The majority of people don't want to interact with her since they are aware of what she did. To be honest, after everything she did to me, it's kind of satisfying to see her crumble. She believed that she could simply enter, set my mother's belongings on fire, and pretend that she had done us a favor. She is currently losing everything. My dad, however, is surviving all of this rather nicely. He may still be grieving over what transpired. In my opinion, he cherished the items my mother left behind because he loved her so much. In addition, he abruptly lost my stepmother, who had become his new love interest. Even though my stepmother is still alive, he is quite angry and hurt by how things have ended out. He is using all of his hurt and rage to make sure my stepmother is held accountable for her actions. His attorneys are doing a fantastic job, and it seems like we're getting closer to finding some sort of resolution every day. It's clearly obvious that the case will destroy her finances, but I'm not sure how long it will last. She will be left with nothing as a result of the property destruction claims, the insurance company pursuing her, and the ongoing divorce. For the time being, things are unquestionably going in the correct direction, but I'll keep you all informed as more develops. Knowing that justice is being done makes me happy. Second update. Hello everybody. It's time for another update, and the situation just becomes more bizarre. My stepmother dug herself a deeper hole than I thought she could, but here we are. With claims of emotional distress and property devastation, the lawsuit was already going quite badly for her, but it has now gotten even worse. My dad's attorneys discovered something significant during the lawsuit's discovery period, which is essentially when all the material is gathered. It turns out that for years, my stepmother has been gradually siphoning off funds from my dad's company. She apparently had access to several of the company accounts, and when she took money out of them, she said it was for costs or domestic necessities. When the lawyers began reviewing the divorce finances, they discovered all these strange transfers. My dad trusted her enough not to question it. She was stealthily extracting hundreds here and there, so we're not talking about little sums either. She funded her lavish lifestyle with this money. Since he had no idea how much luxury goods cost, my dad was never informed about how much she had been spending on them. He assumed my stepmother would be reasonable about her expenditures, but he was completely mistaken. My dad was incensed when he learned. The last straw for him was learning that she had been stealing from him, even though he already felt deceived by her burning my mom's possessions. Her actions were not merely cunning, they were outright dishonesty. She had been taking money out of his accounts for her own use in order to maintain her extravagant lifestyle, and she had no claim to that money. She is currently dealing with a serious fraud charge in addition to the property destruction case. Things are becoming really serious as my stepmother faces charges of embezzlement. My dad isn't having any of it, with her lawyer frantically attempting to work out a settlement. Instead of settling, he wants her to take full responsibility for her actions. To be honest, I don't hold it against him, and in fact, I'm somewhat proud of him. She has gotten away with a lot for a long time, but now everything is finally coming back to haunt her. At this stage, the case covers all of the money she stole in addition to the psychological harm and property damage. The case against her only gets stronger, and my dad's attorneys are doing a fantastic job. I'm shocked every time I learn something new about this situation. Even though I always knew she was cunning and self-centered, I didn't realize how shady she was. She was quite skilled at maintaining appearances and behaving like the ideal wife, while surreptitiously stealing money from my dad. It's repulsive to consider. She now faces the prospect of going to jail. Embezzlement is a serious offense, and if my dad's case continues as it is, she may be imprisoned. It's absurd to consider that she was acting untouchably only a few months ago, and that she is now embroiled in a major legal crisis. She cannot argue her way out of this because the money she stole is well documented, and my dad's legal team is working to have the fraud charges upheld. Her situation just gets worse with each piece of evidence they uncover. No one is providing her an easy way out, despite her constant attempts to strike agreements. She continues to blow up my phone and blame me for everything, of course. She insists that none of this would have occurred if I hadn't betrayed my father. Now, it's really quite pitiful. While she is the one who stole from him and destroyed the things that were important to him, she is denying any responsibility and pretending to be the victim. She goes on a tirade about how I destroyed her life every day. To be honest, I no longer even glance at her texts. However, I must admit that I am relieved that justice is at last being done. Seeing her face the repercussions after everything she did to my mom, my dad, and myself feels like the closure I didn't realize I needed. I feel both content and as though I'm in a different reality as I watch her fall apart and realize that she's losing everything. At this stage, the divorce is essentially finalized and is still proceeding. My dad will keep all of his assets, and the prenuptial agreement has made things much easier. Even though my stepmother is still fighting for whatever she can, she has little power because of the fraud charges that are looming over her. I don't know how long the fraud case will take to go to court, but based on what the attorneys are saying, she doesn't have a good chance. This new fraud case has completely changed the subject, yet the property destruction lawsuit is still pending. This time, she can lose her freedom rather than just money. I've been making an effort to keep my attention on my own recovery in the meanwhile. It's difficult to avoid getting sucked into everything that's going on, even while I'm still recovering from surgery. Seeing her finally receive what she deserves is helping me get through this very taxing circumstance. In any case, that's where we are at the moment. In summary, my stepmother is facing serious legal issues. The divorce is nearly complete, and my father is making sure she doesn't receive any more money than she is due. For the time being, it seems like we're finally getting near to some true justice, but I'll keep you all informed as things develop. Thank you very much for your support. It is really appreciated. Third update. Hello everybody. Almost 7 months have passed since my last post, But I'm here with the last part of this whole nightmare. Right from the start, I'll give you the spoiler. The legal proceedings are finally over. Let me now explain the specifics. Let me start with the positive. The court decided in my dad's and my favor on every point. The judge wasn't kidding around, and every single thing we said was true. My stepmother has been compelled to reimburse my dad's firm for every dime she embezzled. In addition, the court awarded her significant damages for damaging my mother's possessions. The entire cost of the damages was staggering. She will be totally broke for a very long time as a result of it. Her opulent lifestyle is over. She no longer owns pricey cars, beautiful purses, or lavish holidays. Officially, she has reached her lowest point. The divorce was equally brutal and ended at the same time as the lawsuit. My stepmother attempted one more dirty trick during the divorce proceedings. She claimed that my dad had emotionally abused her during their marriage, which is why she was forced to steal from him. She portrayed herself as a neglected, impoverished woman who only took money to make ends meet. It was unbelievable. Fortunately, my father was ready. Her accusations were totally demolished by his attorneys. Throughout their marriage, they had a ton of evidence that my stepmother was enjoying the good life on his cash. She spent the majority of her money on pricey spa treatments, luxury clothing, and vacations, not exactly what you'd call survival essentials, according to numerous receipts. Her sob story didn't convince the judge at all. Actually, it backfired horribly. The court viewed it as merely another attempt to influence the system and failed to find any compassion. Her credibility plummeted, which only served to exacerbate the appearance of her fraud case. Regarding the deception, she will undoubtedly face severe repercussions. The prosecutors wouldn't budge when she attempted to negotiate a reduced sentence or any kind of compromise. She was accused of embezzlement, and although she was fortunate to avoid jail time by entering into a plea agreement, she must now pay restitution in addition to the damages from the civil lawsuit. She will also be subject to the court's supervision for some time, because she is on probation for a few years. The nicest part was that our local news featured the fraud case, which was likely the last straw for her. Everyone was able to view all of her unclean laundry. She was portrayed as a sophisticated, well-to-do socialite, but she has now been revealed to be a thief and a phony. I must admit that watching her be put down so openly was quite satisfying. Now that everyone is aware of her true identity, she no longer acts as though I am beneath her, as she did for years. She has been attempting to start again since the court decisions, but it doesn't seem like it's working well. When she first started looking for a job, nobody in our community would even consider hiring her. I believe she attempted to relocate to a different district in an attempt to start again, but she isn't doing well there either. She currently lives in a small apartment and works at a minimum wage job that she obviously despises, at least based on the messages she occasionally sends me. Yes, she continues to text me despite everything. She still blames me for wrecking her life and sends me sour notes every few weeks. By now, it's almost comical. You took from my dad and destroyed my mom's belongings, and now you're the victim, lady? Yes, all right. I tend to ignore her, but occasionally I can't help but laugh at how naive she seems. I'm doing better myself. I'm recovering both psychologically and physically, albeit it's taken a while. My recuperation is about finished. I feel lighter mentally. I feel like I can finally breathe again now that this whole ordeal is finished. Even if there were times when I felt completely overwhelmed, I still have bad days, especially when I consider that I will never see my mom again and that her possessions will never be replaced. However, it gives me some comfort to know that my stepmother actually suffered the repercussions of her behavior. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who has helped and encouraged me during this. During some of my lowest points, your encouraging words and guidance truly got me through. You have no idea how much it meant to me to know that I had support when it seemed like everything was crumbling. That's all for now. I'm hoping that this will be the last update I have to write on her. I'm permanently ending this phase of my life. Everyone, be careful.